everybody, it's Romania Black, and we are on episode 33 of Monster. And last episode there was a lot going on. We caught up with Lottie. She's met Nina. We don't know exactly what Nina is planning on doing, but she is in Munich with everybody else. So the gang is all gathered. We're just missing Lunge and the police, right? And then we caught up with Tinma, who is just trying to find the most opportune spot to snipe Johan from. But apparently it can't be the forest. The forest is the sanctuary, as we've come to find out. But we were talking in the Discord today and just sharing pictures of Tinma back when things were innocent. And I miss those days. I miss those days so much. It's so frustrating seeing how in only 30 episodes, how far Tinma has fallen. And it's really sad, right? I don't get on the Discord too much over for Monster on Patreon, only because, and I was explaining this to a few people on there, I want to try to stay as blind as I can. Like there's been black box discussions that I have no clue about, that everybody's talking about whatever, and that's fine. Like, you won't hurt my feelings black boxing a conversation, because that just means there's stuff to talk about, and I'll figure it out eventually. But I just don't get on there and talk too much about it, because this series is so steeped in mystery for me, and I'm trying to stay as blind as I can. So even asking questions about, like, well, what do you think about a character? And I'm like, well, I've talked in the discussion what I think about them, and that's pretty much how I feel. So I'm like, if people ask me how I feel about a character, I'm like, well, then come to this discussion and listen to what I say about those characters, and that's pretty much what it is. But I don't want to get too much into the discussion on Discord, because I'm afraid that somebody will say something and it will be a spoiler, and then I'll be like, what? And then that'll happen. So that's been basically about it. But over on the comment side, Miguel Clay and Alex Cornejo had some really cool comments to do with the last couple of episodes. Miguel Clay talking about how Rudy nails Lunge's personality and how he cannot accept Tinma as innocent. He just can't. And it's so fascinating, because you have characters like Richard, who couldn't accept that Steven would be possibly innocent. Just couldn't accept it. And Lunge's the same way with Tinma. And what's frustrating is that the situation in the story makes us, the audience, want to tell Lunge, but we know Tinma's innocent. But then when we hear Richard, defend himself against Steven, it's like, well, we don't actually know anything about Steven. So can we really support Richard without knowing anything? Or was Johan onto something? It brings up a host of different things, right? And beyond that, Alex Cornejo pointed out that in episode 31, Lunge, as soon as the one loon is carted away from Rudy, Lunge immediately sits down in the empty seat. And it's just like a revolving door. I loved how Alex Cornejo said that Lunge thinks he's doing the questioning, but in reality, Rudy is quote-unquote trapped in a weirdo questioning assembly line. I love Rudy's character a lot. I really liked him the last couple episodes, and that makes me worried, because usually the characters I like have bad things happen to them, so... But yeah, I don't know, y'all. We're basically a third of the way through the story. So that's something, right? I think about 40% is what somebody on the Discord said today, which is crazy. We're not quite halfway there. Not quite. We're close, but we're not quite halfway. But we're getting there. So that's pretty scary. But yeah, y'all, I don't know what to expect, but I'm really excited, and I hope y'all are too. So really quick shout out over to Patreon to thank you all so much for supporting me and my channel, and for supporting these reactions. I really, really appreciate the commentary, everything. So the philanthropy tier over on Patreon, they get a special shout out in these videos. So I want to give an extra special shout out to these individuals who go above and beyond to support me in my reaction and discussion endeavors. So thank you so much to Edgar, to Anime Annie, to Dana, to Nameless Monster, to Tyrone, to Be Happy, to Shimoyama, as well as to Translucent Min, Eric, Sunspots, Alex Cornejo, and Isabel. Thank you so, so much. I truly, truly appreciate it. All of my love. So yeah, I don't know what to expect, y'all. Tinma has a sniper rifle, and he seems to have his sights set on killing Johan, but there's so much, like I talked in the last episode, there's so much being set up that I'm like, Tinma, the conditions for this are going to be very dangerous. And I don't think Tinma cares, but everybody else around him cares about him, so I don't know if Nina is going to get involved, if she's going to meet up with Dieter and figure out what's going on from him, how this is going down, where Lunge is. We just don't know. So yeah, we just don't know. But We're going to find out, right? So we're not going to waste any more time, y'all. We are going to dive right into episode 33 of Monster. And we're going to do that here in 3, 2, 1, and let's go. Oh my God. Yeah. What? Wait, oh, now. Nope. Something's going on. Something is going on. This story is getting weird. Things are getting weird and crazy, and I don't know how to feel about it. I'm so intrigued, though. I'm like, wait, what? So, a child's view. This episode, I've never been more concerned for Dieter than I was 10 episodes ago. I was like, Dieter, get off, get away. I was like, you cannot run him. He's only got a crutch. But Dieter, I think it speaks volumes that what's so frustrating at this point, what is so frustrating at this point is because Tenma is not able to see. He's so hyper-fixated on killing Johan at this point because he believes that's what he has to do to stop all this madness, that he's not seeing the impact his kindness and the non-violence he's done has happened to people like Dieter, right? So we need to talk about this whole Johan seemingly knowing what's happening, like predicting what's going to go on, why he's making children leap from buildings, what the fudge. So, okay. And we're going to put Johan up here and all these suspicious things surrounding Johan, right? And then tie over here our boy Dieter. Poor Dieter and Reichwein. And then tie together Tenma. We'll put Tenma over here. Okay. So we got our 3 people. We've got Johan, Dieter, and Tenma, who are the central focus of this. Some weird stuff, right? So, it's funny. Like, everybody shares lots of pictures of Johan in the Discord, and Johan is a very attractive person. I'm not saying he's not. But it's episodes like this that make me go, wait, what? I'm like, you support Johan? What? No. Johan's terrifying. Someone had shared an image of, Light Yagami from Death Note being like, I'm the king of the world, and Johan was under it being like, bitch, please. I was like, yeah, I'm getting that vibe, right? Because the thing about it is that Johan, he's been imprinting on these children, right? These impressionable children. He's been imprinting on them, and he's been teaching them the game on the roof that he was playing, and one ends up falling. The crazy thing is that's the game he was playing with Carl back in the episode when he met him on the rooftop. He was doing the same thing. He was teetering on the roof, and Carl was like, whoa, what are you doing? And Carl didn't stand up. Carl sat down because he's an intelligent adult and was like, well, and then Johan reached for him like he was going to shove him off, and then it didn't happen. So, it's one of those things where Johan's been playing this game. Now, the game itself is going on here is about tackling fear, right? That's what it's under the guise of, right? It's tackling fear. Like, oh, I'm not afraid if I'm on the precipice of the world. I'm not afraid if I fall, right? And these kids have been falling to their deaths. That's why I'm like, I don't care if you were trying to teach these children some type of philosophical lesson or not. The point is, you've killed children, Johan. Your influence has murdered children. How can we come back from that, right? What can we get from that, right? And he's still talking to those kids who are still being encouraged to do the game. And I'm like, Johan, what's the point? What's the deal? But luckily, this kid's mom explains that if he hadn't landed on the first floor awning and in the bushes, he'd be dead. Yeah. And the crazy thing is that the child that Dieter knows, Martin, we'll put Martin on here, which is a name of a bird, right? There's a Martin. You can have that. Martin, he lived from the fall. And suddenly has no need for the world. It's all like, the funny thing is it's all a guys, right? He acts like he thinks the world is boring, and he's mean-spirited. And seems, here we go, seems to have no fear. But he does. But he does have fear, right? And all I could think of in the moment with all of this was, it was very akin to Tenma saving Johan's life. If Johan being like, oh, I've gotten this second chance at the world. I don't give a shit about it now. Like, you know, one of those things, right? Because before Johan was shot by Nina, before Johan was shot, he'd been to Kinderheim. He had been trying to be indoctrinated by whatever was going on there. He watched all these people murder each other. Then he was taken away by the Liebert man. And then he killed the Liebert family and then was like, I'm done. It's almost like Johan was playing a game of chicken with himself and told Nina to kill him, like he's telling these kids to throw each other off the roof. He's like, okay, Nina, now shoot me, be done with it. And she did. And just like this boy hit the awning and lived, Tenma saved Johan and he lived. And when Johan came back, he no longer cared who he killed or what he did. He was just going to do everything for himself. And didn't care what society said, and said he wasn't afraid. Yeah, the parallels are there. The parallels are very much there, right? And they build up us not being able to see the kid at first. They build all that up. They won't show us his face at first, and I'm like, well, what's the point of that? Well, because when they do the reveal and you see him bandaged, he looks like Johan when Johan was bandaged in the hospital. It's the same deal, right? The thing of it is, I'd have to go back and even watch to see if Martin was one of those kids in the park with Johan, but that's not the point. Johan's been going to other people's houses, and Johan needs to have a restraining order and stay about 500 feet from all children under the age of 8. I'm just saying. And Dieter, I like how Reichwein's like, Dieter, don't go in the rooms, mess with things. Of course Dieter's gonna go in the room and mess with things, right? He's a kid. He's like, what, am I going to stay here by myself? And honestly, my theory was, I thought if Dieter had stayed out of the room, he was going to hear like the kid trying to open the window and jump out again. I kept thinking the kid was going to commit suicide. Whole episode. I thought the kid was going to jump out the window the first chance he got, or he's going to go up at the roof and he was going to jump. Like he was going to fulfill the game, right? I thought that's where it was heading. And it luckily did not. But oh my God. Oh my God. And then, yeah, the kid looks just like, and he's just so apathetic and just like, Now, the one thing is, Johan, who seemed to be exactly the same way in the hospital, like this kid was, the only time Johan had an emotional outburst was when he saw Nina. So, I don't know if Nina is like Johan's kryptonite, if she is like the only thing that can stop him is his sister, because they're siblings, because they're blood. I don't know if Nina, we're going to put her outside, is Nina like his weakness? It would be really interesting if she was the only one that could see through him, right? But what the fudge? I don't know, y'all. I don't know. But he ends up, he says, were you injured when you got on the roof? And the kid just takes off. Like, he just goes. He tells him to get his shoes and goes. And I like that Dieter does it. But then he's like, hey, can you talk to me and explain what's going on? And that's when this kid says, I'm not scared of them getting mad at me. He says, it's just like he said, if you make it back, go outside, the world will change. That is some messed up stuff, right? He's suggesting, he's like, oh, if you jump off, then you'll leave this cruel world behind you, and when you awake, you'll be a whole new person, and you won't care anymore, and you'll just be an agent of chaos. And it's like, what? Like, why is he creating these incels? Like, what are you doing, Johan? What is happening? And he says, it's not the world that's changed, but it's I who am changed. And Dieter's just like, he's like, because I've been chosen. I like that Dieter's like, the fudge? It's like, so he's basically getting these kids to believe that they are the chosen ones. But that is no different than Kinderheim, right? Because the whole thing about Kinderheim was being a chosen one, right? That you were going to be like this chosen one for that military operation. So how is what Johan is doing in indoctrinating these children, how is it any different than Kinderheim? It's the same thing, right? It's just done in a different way. What? I don't know. And that damn scary ass dark building that they keep flashing back to, I'm like, put some lights up around it or something. What the hell? He's like, the world is so boring. And here's the thing about the world being boring is that he finds no joy or sweetness in the world. And there's no love, right? There's no love there. That's the problem, right? That is the crux of it. There is no love. And I could definitely see how, based on Johan's experiences from leaving a country that's war-torn, from being abused at Kinderheim, from everything going on, I could see how Johan would have in his mind that the world's not worth living because it's too cruel. Because it's boring, it's cruel, there's no joy in it, there's no love. But then the people that do find love in it are like, no, you're wrong. And that whole back and forth between him and Dieter on the roof is so good. And I want to get back to it, but we got to make it there first. And that's when Dieter's like, what the hell are you doing? And he says, you should come too. He's like, I'm not afraid. And Dieter's like, the hell? And at first, it's somewhat harmless. You're just like, okay, he's got a death wish, but he's just facing, all these adversities and challenges and dangers in the face, and he's just saying whatever and going past it. That's not terrible. It's still kind of creepy. But then what he does to the homeless man that we know virtually nothing about is mean. He knocks him down. And Dieter's like, what the hell are you doing? And he's like, why would you do that for? And he just says, and I was afraid, he's like, he's scared. And Dieter's like, stop it. And the thing about it is, it's that move there, the idea of hurting someone to address power, and the idea of hurting someone to prove that you're not scared, I'm not scared, they're the ones that are scared. That's literally, I guess, is it an imitation of what Johan is doing? Because Johan's like, oh, I'm not scared. These people are all scared. And causing all of these horrific things to happen to them to distract from the fact that he's afraid of his own mortality. I don't know. And I feel like Dieter is almost a Tenma representative because he's like, stop it. And he's like, I told you to look at him. And I'm not going to lie. When he had the end of the crutch pushed up against his head, I was like expecting some like Game of Thrones eyes popping out, like gore. I've been watching too much Vinland Saga. I was expecting it to get gory. And I was like, please don't do that. I have sensitive eyes. I don't want to see stuff with eyes. He says, I don't want to die. Save me. Is that what you're thinking? And he's like, then I'll spare your life. And poor Dieter. Dieter's just like, oh my God. I was really hoping Dieter would have helped him back on his feet. Maybe he did, and we just saw it off screen. But it's this idea of flexing power. To those who beg for it. Because that's kind of the thing about it, right? That also ties back to Johan, in that Johan, the old man that was blind, and all these people that he's spared because they've begged him. And yet, then you have people like Richard who didn't need the beg, and they had to die because they didn't need Johan. They were just trying to stop him. It's like, what the fudge? And so, yeah, then Dieter's like, what are we doing? And he's like, my friend taught me this game. My friend, he said, the superior people will survive just like that person. So basically, Johan has been teaching these kids that the superior people will survive. Like Johan. I don't know. There was like talk back in the 1940s about a superior people, and caused it was at the center of a big giant world war, and and there's still groups that are, like that today that believe they are a superior group of people. It's tying back to that. I'm just gonna say it, kind of tied a little bit to Nazis and, supremacists. So yeah, that's a little bit creepy. Just a wee bit. And he's like, the person who taught me this game, he's our friend. Nope! Nope. So I'm just throwing this out here. We're only at episode 33, right? 33. We're almost halfway through the story at this point. I maybe you think that Johan's a nice person. Maybe. I'm gonna say no. No, because he's teaching children to be white supremacists, and that they're going to be the superior race, and that they're going to defy death and, jump to their deaths, and if they live, they're going to be great. I'm going to say no. I'm going to say that, the moment you're getting children to jump off of roofs and kill themselves, and you're trying to indoctrinate them into these ideologies, I don't know if I can put you in the good camp anymore. I don't know if you can be there anymore. No, because at least like Yagami wasn't trying to persuade any kid. Well, he was trying to persuade them to worship him, but that was a whole different thing. And then I give Dieter props for being like, I don't want to go up there. And then that's when the kid lifts up the shirt. And poor Dieter, like the bruises he's had for the last months are like imprinted into his skin. They're like scars at this point. He can't get rid of them. And he says, who beat you up? Was it your parents? He says, are you going to be on their side? And he's like, even though they did that to you, do you still intend to be buried in this stupid world? Take a look for yourself. So it's almost like this weird Peter Pan situation where Johan has these lost boys and he's trying to like convince them that, this is the way that the world can be. So another thing that the kid points out, that Martin points out, is the idea of, are you on the side of those who hurt you? He's basically saying, he's like, you being around on this side, not joining Johan and I, is just showing that you're supporting those people that hurt you. And I'm like, I do not know if that is true. And so he says, how is the view from up here? How does it feel? And he's like, stand up. What are you afraid of? Stand up, close your eyes, and try walking. And Dieter's like, hell to the no. And this kid, and I like that Dieter's like, I get it. Suddenly Dieter, and that's my thing, this kid Martin, I don't think Martin was going through anything like Dieter was going through. Because Martin's mom, even though she's a little bit nagging, she doesn't seem like she's abusive. She doesn't seem that bad. She just seems like a worried mom. I'm going to say Martin wasn't dealing with the stuff that Dieter dealt with, right? We don't know that for sure. But I like that Dieter, he explains that he understands the darkness. He gets it, right? I want Dieter's character to live and to grow up because I think Dieter has been influenced the right way by Tenma. And I think that he goes about this the right way. He's like, I understand everything you've been saying. He's like, I get it. And that kid just stares at him. He goes, I thought the world was pitch black. And I thought the future was pitch black. So he thought that the world and his future was black. Like there was just darkness. He's like, I didn't see any future where I could possibly be happy, right? And so the kid just stares at him and he's like, and then he says, what's your favorite food? He's like, tries to reach him. He's like, what is your favorite food? He's like, I had this sausage the other day, but if I die, I can never eat it again. And the kid responds saying that you're scared. So Dieter says, he's like, my favorite food. He's like, my favorite food. I love it. And the boy says, well, you're just scared. And he's like, no, I don't want to lose the taste of sugar, right? And he says, I like soccer. He's like, if I died, I wouldn't be able to kick a ball ever again. And he says, you're weak. So he says he has like a hobby. He has a hobby in things that he loves, which is soccer. And the one boy says, that makes you weak, having something that you like that. And he says, I like Dr. Reichwein. His secretary, Miss Meredith, is kind. If I died, I'd never see them again. And the boy doesn't say anything. He says there will always be things to be scared of. That's why he said to become an adult. Yeah, so that's the thing. He's like, there's always going to be things that you're scared of. And that's why Tenma said to become an adult. So we're literally dealing with Tenma versus Johan's ideologies here with these kids, right? He says that's why he said to become an adult. And then the kid doesn't have a thing. He says tomorrow is a good day. Tomorrow is good. It breaks my heart. It is breaking my heart when Dieter says this. He says, tomorrow is a good day. That's what Tinma taught me. And that's when that kid just stares. He's like, if I died, I'd never see Tinma again. And it's just that love. And that's when that kid falters because he doesn't have a response to that. He doesn't have a response to the love and kindness that Tinma and Reichwein and them have shown him. And it breaks my freaking heart because I'm like, Tinma, I want Tinma to see that, like, the good he's done for Dieter. Like, don't let Dieter know that you're going to kill Johan. Like, don't be like that. And I thought that kid was going to fall. I thought he was going to fall. And that's when he says that he was scared. And that's when Dieter grabs him. And Dieter saves him from falling. And he pushes him back up and pulls him back over there. He says, I can't be like him. I can't be like Johan. It's like we've known Johan was the person he was talking about the whole time. He says, Johan is playing even better games. He's going to be killed soon. And he says he's going to be shot by a Japanese man real soon. And Dieter's like, how does he know this? So, somehow, Johan knows. He knows he is about to be shot. And somebody was saying in the channel, somebody was saying in the Discord channel, like, it could just be that Johan is much more perceptive than Tinma is letting on, right? It could very well be that Johan has noticed that Tinma is following him. He knows that Tinma is coming to get him. He has this idea in his head. It could be very much that, which is fine. And so it could be that he even saw him in the forest. Like, Tinma may think that he's being more stealthy than he actually is, right? Tinma's a doctor. He's not a spy. So it could very well be that Johan is more stealthy than Tinma's giving him credit for and has figured out that he's coming to get him. Could very well be. And so he's telling all these kids. And that's the thing too. He's telling these kids that this Japanese man is coming to kill him so that if he dies, the children will all confess to the cops that Tinma was going to kill him. And that will be further proof for Lunge and the others to arrest Tinma. That's genius. Yeah. And that it may not even be that Johan even knows that Tinma's there. He just suspects it. But he's covering his bases being like, hey, if some Japanese guy shows up and kills me, now I've told people they knew it was going to happen. That it could be he's just covering his bases. And in either case, Dieter is terrified because he's like, what the fudge? I want Dieter to go find Tinma and tell him that what he's learned from the kids, but he's stuck with Reichwein. I don't know if that's going to happen. If I were Reichwein, I'd be like, what the hell are you doing, Dieter? What is happening? What is happening? But yeah. So Dieter knows that Johan knows that Tinma's coming to kill him. So there's one thing. Maybe he can tell Nina and Nina can stop Tinma. Maybe that'll happen. Maybe that'll be a thing and he'll tell her and she'll stop him, right? Because I don't think Dieter is going to be able to get to access where Tinma is at. But Nina could. So maybe that'll be what happens. I don't know. But then we cut to this kid saying, I closed my eyes and walked on the edge of the roof. And I walked up there, it's true. I wasn't scared at all. When I opened my eyes, Joachim, who should have been right in front of me, was gone. I saw it. I saw the instant when someone dies with my own eyes. People really die. And that's when the mom comes in with tea. And I'm like, do you know your son is talking about... Do you know that... He doesn't even know what he's doing. I'm like, do you know your kid's talking about, like, other kids dying in this? Are you aware of these things happening, ma'am? You should maybe listen to your son more. Because she just leaves the tea. I'm glad he's alive when I think of how Joachim's parents must feel. Oh, my God. Please talk some sense into him. I'm like, that is the last person you want to talk sense into. Nope. Because then this kid is just like, she annoys me like that every day. I'm like, she gave you juice, damn it, you spoiled brat. She gave you juice. That's the thing. These kids are bitching about their parents. And I'm like, none of them seem like Dieter has legit excuse. His foster parent was actually beating him. I'm like, you don't have any excuse. Your mom made you juice. Shut the frick up, you trollop, you brat. She doesn't let you out of the house because you nearly killed yourself. TV and comics are off limits too. I'm like, and that's when Johan says that must sound pretty boring. I'm like, or maybe you should tell this kid not to think. And he says, I'll bring you something. He says, really? He says, if you can't have comics, how about a picture book? And that's when the kid says, oh, that sounds boring too. I'm like, you're such a little trollopy brat. No. And then Johan, he looks over and says, that great game you told me about, have you played it yet? The great game. You said you might be shot soon, didn't you? These kids, it's like a freaking Fight Club cult is what it's become, right? Because Johan says that he's playing the big game. Playing the big game with his life at stake. And the kids just think it's like a big old dare, like a big old game. I'm like, Johan, why are you indoctrinating these children? Please stop. This is terrifying. And he says, I'm so excited. When? When is a Japanese person going to shoot you? Tell me, Johan. Oh my God. And he just sits there smiling like cryptically. And I don't feel bad for Johan. How can I at this point? Because I'm like, dude, you kind of did this whole thing to yourself. So why would I feel bad for you? I'm like, if you didn't kill Nina's foster parents, if you didn't do all this, I'm like, if you didn't kill Yonkers in front of him, why? That's my thing. Is all of this, the thing that got Timma from the beginning was Yonkers dying. That's what started this whole thing. And if you knew that Timma was coming to get you, why the hell did you kill Yonkers knowing that he'd go after you after that? Why didn't you kill Timma? You had 3 bullets. You could have shot Timma in the face and you could have shot Yonkers. Could have ended it both there, but you didn't do it. Like, it's like he wants Timma to come and kill him. He wants the game. It is a game to him. He wants Timma to come and try to kill him because it's a game of who can outwit who can outdo who's going to be the last one caught. Am I going to get away with it? Are you going to get away with it? What's the deal, right? But Timma has to try to shoot him in order for them to play the game. And Dieter didn't play the game. Dieter chose not to play the game. So I'm like, Timma, you could be like Dieter. Choose not to play the game. Oh my God. But that is the thing of it, right? That's the thing about it. It's just, it's mind-blowing. Like, why? Like I said, I think I said this a few reactions ago. I get a very Seven vibe. If you've ever seen David Fincher's movie Seven, it's friggin' good. It's from the 90s. It's so good. But Kevin Spacey's character in there plays John Doe. And Johan gives off a very distinct vibe in John Doe. The whole premise of the movie, and spoilers, just go see Seven. I won't spoil the whole thing. But the premise is that each character in it is one of the 7 deadly sins. And John Doe's character is trying to invoke wrath. That's what he's trying to invoke, is the sin of wrath. And so, if you've seen Seven, I'm going to spoil parts of it here while I'm waving my hand. So just ignore me while I'm waving my hand if you don't want to be spoiled on Seven. The point of Seven is that he's trying to do the 7 deadly sins. And Kevin Spacey's character, John Doe, is the sin of envy. And he envies the good life that Brad Pitt's character has. And so he basically destroys Brad Pitt's life, essentially, so that Brad Pitt will become wrath and kill him for his envy. He wants to die for his sins, and he wants to make Brad Pitt sinful in order for it to occur. Which reminds me a lot of Johan and Timma, that Johan is envy. He envies the people that have the good life, like the foster parents, and he wants them to suffer, and he's trying to make, like, Timma into wrath, into a monster himself. So, end of Seven spoilers. But yeah, that's what it's reminding me of, and it's freaking me out, because I know how Seven ends, and I don't want that for this series. But yeah, that look, it's so creepy. So yeah, so we have Der Steppenwolf, first edition, and we have all of Gautier's poetry, and that are being donated to this library. And, okay, here's the thing. Like, part of me was like, how convenient that as Johan thinks he's going to die, he has Schubert offer up all of his belongings, like his high-tech belongings. It's like, how convenient. What a coincidence. it made me think that Schubert's life would possibly be in danger, but I don't think that's the case anymore. I do find it fascinating that Schubert is a self-studied person. They didn't go to college. That makes so much more sense now because it explains why he wanted someone to read to him. He explained that he taught himself by reading, and that's how he learned. So, since he's blind now, he can't read the text, so that's why he was having all the readers coming to him. That I liked that little note with Schubert. That was a nice little self-insert there. And so he's like, my eyesight's worse, so I won't be able to read them all very soon. But I'm like, that's not a good... I mean, you have Carl and them that can read for you, so that's not a justifiable excuse. I think Johan just convinced him to donate the books to set up this perfect opportunity at this library for Johan to get shot. I seriously think that it's all a big setup to lure Tinma there, to get him to try to shoot him so that Johan can try to capture Tinma or get him caught. I'm fully convinced. And so what gets me is like the elitism of the library owner, where he's like, many of the books are valuable, but they should be accessible to normal people too. And I'm like, oh, really? Accessible to normal people, you say? And then the one guy that's talking about all this security, he's like, we have to have some ample security here, make sure the invited guests are checked out thoroughly. When the most dangerous person in the room, he just looks at it and goes, don't you agree, Johan? I'm like, he's the most dangerous person here. How are you missing this? It's so frustrating. I'm like, oh my God. And he's like, Carl and Johan suggested I donate the books too. I'm like, yeah, imagine that. And there's just something about Johan's the skin color when he goes to shake his hand that it's just like so ashen, right? So then we go to the Munich University Library, with a room where they're going to put the books that Schubert is donating. And so at first, you're like, well, this room doesn't seem like a room that people would normally visit, because it's not. But then they explain that the temperature and humidity are optimum levels for storage. And yeah, if you have an old book, you want to store it in a decent place so it doesn't corrode any further or disintegrate, whatever. And then it's safe from fire and theft. And then Carl's looking at all the books saying, this is truly a treasure of humanity, don't you think? And Johan says, a treasure of humanity, huh? And there's some kind of there's an irony there, because it's like, these are all treasures of humanity and all of the priceless things humanity should be reading and treasuring, but they're stuffed in this little safe room that no one will ever visit. So it's almost like humanity, it's like Johan's making a comment about how humanity, it takes all of the valuable things that would benefit them and locks them away and never accesses them because they're trying to keep them safe. So, or at least that's how the scene read to me. They was just kind of noting the irony of the situation. And then I got such banana fish vibes from the library with all the chairs and stuff. I was thinking banana fish. I was like, oh my God. Here's where it gets weird. They're like, we'll hold the donation ceremony in the center hall here because it's this nice big open space, right? And then as your butler said, security will be very tight, so nobody's going to get in. Mr. Schubert should feel at ease. And Carl's just this ray of sunshine, like, yeah, everything's all sunshine and roses and peaches and cream. I'm like, Carl. He's like, I'm sure Dad will love it. And then he looks back, and Johan is looking right up at this spot where Tinma ends up looking to make the scope. So here's the thing, because we've tossed out the idea of Johan possibly being psychic, and I don't want to know, right? But I'm like, okay, well, what if he's not psychic? What if he can briefly see into the future? What if he has foresight? What if that's it? Because how would he be able to read Tinma's mind if it wasn't till later that Tinma came and scoped out the library? So what's the deal? Unless the timelines are not syncing up, right? What's the deal? So, but he goes there, and it's not just that. It's almost like the bookshelf. He goes there to see, and maybe it's not. Ooh, what if it's because there's the balcony behind him where that spot was. Oh, so it might not be that he was seeing where Tinma, because here's the thing, where Tinma ends up at, the spot that Tinma scouts to shoot Johan saw earlier and stopped, but it might not have been because he was having foresight about Tenma. It's in the same aisle as the creepy book. So maybe he stopped and looked up and saw the bookshelf and saw where that book was, and that's why he went up there to check it out, and then that's where he collapses, and it just so happens to be the place where Tenma ends up. Like, it's just this creepy aisle of monstrosity and negative energy, right? Because this is just a big collection of books. And so he's looking for a picture book for one of his friends. And he's like, yes, a friend. He doesn't explain it's a child. He just says a friend. And she says, well, how about this one? And here's the thing. The book that she gives him has, like, it looks like knights. And there's a castle. And she's like, isn't it a good picture? And I guess, and it looks like there's, like, a monster or something in it, or an evil man. And he says, yes, but it's too adult for him. And she's like, oh, your friend isn't a grown-up. And he says, no. And she's like, well, then how about this one? And when she reaches up to grab it, there is the different books, right? And she knocks out, and the one shows like a kid with a Santa Claus, like a little Santa Claus outfit and a snowman. And she drops the book. She's like, oh no, I'm such a klutz. And of course, when he goes to hand her the book, he looks really friendly and kind. And she's like, oh, of course she blushes because he's handsome. And that's when she's like, oh, I'm clumsy. I'm always like this. And that's when he picks up a book that does not have the Christmas kid on it. Instead, it's an old book. But he looks at it, and that expression on his face is just so telling. That expression is grim. It's like, it's the saddest we've seen Johan look, and we don't know what the book is. I'm like, is the book the ED? Is it the monster book? Is it? And she goes, oh, this was the book I was going to give you. And this one, though, he lifts it up and he's looking through it. And she's like, oh, do you like that one? And she says, oh, it has nice pictures. I wonder whose book that is. She says, let me take a look. Emil Scherbe. The publisher is Moravia, located in Prague. There's a lot of good picture book artists in the Czech Republic, but I've never heard of Scherbe. Which, the Czech Republic is where him and Nina came from. So it's likely a book he's seen before and has connections with. And now it's here. So Emil Scherbe, what is that? Like, I'm so hesitant to look it up because I don't want to be spoiled. I have a feeling as if I Googled Emil Scherbe, it would pop up like monster spoilers everywhere. So I'm not going to do it. But damn it, I want to look it up so bad. But it's just the idea that it's from the Czech Republic, which is where him and Nina came from originally. So it's likely he saw this book as a kid and could have connections to it. Because then, yeah, there's a monster on the cover. Yes, he must not be very famous. The book has the monster. Yes! So what the fudge? Because then he starts shaking. It's almost like whatever's in the book, like, enters him. Like, it's some kind of evil. Like, did we just get supernatural? Has this story been so realistic from here up until this point, and we just had, like, a basement moment in Attack on Titan where things just got really freaking crazy? Did we just have that moment? Is that what's happened? Is that what's happened? Did this supernatural book just unleash a demon? Did the Conjuring just happen? Because we've never seen Johan this emotional and just starts to scream and tear up and scream like, what the fudge? And then he just collapses. And then we don't get to see what happened to him. We just see that the collection is about to occur, and we see Tenma like scoping out where he's going to shoot. But it's on the opposite side, right? It's on the opposite side of the bookshelf, isn't it? Where he's scoping out to shoot him. It's the opposite of where Johan was standing before, right? Oh my God. He's like, this is the place where I'll kill him. No, I guess that is the place that he was at. From here, I'll kill him. Then we have the creepy new ED that is terrifying. And the lyrics for it... What are the lyrics for it? Like, everybody just starts turning into monsters, and it's so freaking creepy. I'm like, nope. Nope. I have a feeling we'll be listening to the lyrics for a while now. But yeah, but all the archers and everything, making it home to your land of harmony. The fudge. Make it home to your land of purity. Well, I mean, what? What? I'm terrified. I'm legit terrified. I know I'm gonna look back at those lyrics for the ED next episode, but the book was the monster book. That's the book that this whole ED is based off of, is the monster book. But what connection it has to Johan? Is it supernatural? Is it actually possessed him? Does it actually unleash a monster? Is that the case? We don't know. But the thing that's crazy about it is like, what did it do? Why did Johan have such a reaction to it? What was the deal? Why did he have a visceral reaction to it? Because, I don't know, right? If there are two Johans, still, did this turn him back into the evil one? Was he the evil one when he told the kids about jumping off the roof? How does that make sense? So there's all these questions, right? But what I do like about the ED is it is visualizing this idea that ideologies are very contagious, and that violence and the idea surrounding it is very contagious. Because yeah, all Johan had to do was tell all these kids these different things, and it's just like it's like the monster went from Johan into the children, all one by one, like it is in the ED, right? But ideologies like that are infectious, but then so are the ones like Tinma's to Dieter that saved him. So, oh my God, like I don't want Tinma to kill Johan because I don't want him to let Dieter down. But in the same breath, Johan is terrifying and probably needs to stop talking to children. I'm just saying. Oh my God, I don't know how long I'm going to wait till episode 34. This one didn't end on a cliffhanger, but need to watch it. So, yeah, please no spoilers, hints, or clues. But with that being said, I really would like to know what you thought of this episode because, holy shit. But yeah, I'm very excited and terrified and would like to know what's happening with this book and Johan, but maybe we'll find out next episode or after that. Who knows? But in the meantime, I hope you all have a wonderful week. Please stay safe, take care, and yeah, I'll be back very soon with more Monster. Bye.